What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, it looks like the historic run for the Switch when it comes to units sold and even software sold is actually accelerating now. Nintendo posted results for this most recent financial quarter in the new fiscal year, and the numbers for the Switch are pretty ridiculous. In fact, the numbers for Animal Crossing are off the chart insanity. We're going to go over that today, even compare it to some of the other systems from Nintendo to see where it stacks up now. And we have to talk about Apple and Microsoft, because while we talked about xCloud not being on iOS currently, in fact being pulled down, Apple responded to why that is, and then Microsoft comes in and responds to them. It's certainly an interesting scuffle to see because it could set the tone going forward for streaming and platforms when it comes to cell phones. As always, guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're brand new here, hit that red subscribe button down below as we head towards 500,000 subscribers. And we're gonna start today with Doom Eternal and Elder Scrolls Online being next-gen games. We'll at least get next-gen updates. Again, we've had a lot of questions about how our games will transfer, ones we have now, when it comes to backwards compatibility with next-gen. We, of course, know Microsoft's talking smart delivery. Sony's been a little quieter, but we have seen some publishers and developers say, oh yeah, our games will just, they'll work, we'll have a patch, and maybe we'll even take advantage of some of the cool features of next-gen. Well, it looks like Bethesda is saying that now for Doom Eternal and the Elder Scrolls Online. Good, obviously, if you're an Elder Scrolls Online player right now, as that is an ongoing game, it's an MMO, so that would make sense why you might want to upgrade your hardware when that happens and hope that your stuff transfers over. No worries there. Doom Eternal is an interesting one because maybe they'll actually build on it with the Series X and the PlayStation 5. Could they shoot for even higher frame rates? Because we are seeing some games do that now, go for 120 frames per second. And that, of course, for Doom, which is a very fast-paced shooter, benefits heavily from smooth and higher frame rates. 120 frames would be great to see, or who knows, maybe they just go with a locked 4K, make the whole thing look prettier, and just a rock solid 60 frames per second. We don't necessarily know how this will go down though with updates, and I guess you just pop the disc in and it'll say, hey, you're on a next-gen system, would you like to update? And we'll go from there. We also don't know when it's going to be available. I'm hoping on launch day, but most likely it'll come probably the weeks after. Also, we had covered the summer game sale that Sony is running on the PlayStation Network currently, and there are some very good deals there. A lot of stuff is on sale, and they're even adding some other games. I want to go over a few notable ones here, just in case you have not picked them up yet. You can see kind of the listing here. And you can see Call of Duty Modern Warfare there down to $38.99. We also have Final Fantasy VII Remake down to $39.59. That is, I still think, a very good deal. $40 for Final Fantasy VII Remake. And then Doom Eternal is marked half off down to $30. That is a good price, I would say, for Doom Eternal. If you've been holding out, maybe you kind of skipped it when it first dropped earlier this year, and maybe even forgot about it. I beat the game earlier this year, and I've already forgot about it, so I don't really blame anyone for that. But at $30, that's a pretty good deal to go back, pick it up. And now we know, of course, it's going to work on next generation consoles, according to Bethesda. So not bad. They keep adding stuff to the sale, which is great. I just saw those. They seem like bigger deals, and I wanted to make sure you guys knew about them before it ends, I think in the next couple of days. So keep an eye out. Oh, and Horizon Zero Dawn on PC releases today on Steam, August 7th. And there's something wrong with it, it seems. This is strange because I was kind of thinking that Sony, when they moved a game like this over, which, I mean, was a big deal, right? Horizon Zero Dawn, people were looking at this like, okay, it's not Death Stranding, at least to a lot of people, it makes sense, right? Because it's like, oh, it's Kojima's game. 505 Games was going to come in and help get this over to PC. That's kind of a different thing. Horizon Zero Dawn is Sony's game, and it was odd to see it go over to PC. That is certainly new for them, so we figured it would have done really well when it comes to porting. Turns out that's not the case. Digital Foundry did a whole video on it, and it seems like there are bugs, graphical issues. There's a lot of things, even if you have fairly powerful hardware, that you have to deal with immediately. For example, it was pointed out that when you first start the game up, basically every time, not only does it have to compile everything in your GPU, but it also does some weird stuff where it starts at 4K, goes down to 1080p, then upscales again to 4K, so everything looks really soft and just kind of off, and you have to do different things like launch in windowed mode and play around with settings just to get that to look right. It's very strange, even issues with frame rate just based around different settings and different parts of the game. it's kind of a mess right now with Horizon Zero Dawn, so keep an eye on that. Certainly look for any patches that come out before you just buy immediately on Steam. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. We're gonna start right away with Nintendo's financial earnings that they reported. This is for their first quarter in the current fiscal year. This started at the beginning of April, so we're talking about 3 months. April, May, and June. That, of course, means that we are looking at less technically of the first 4 months of Animal Crossing launching. We're not there yet with this report, but obviously in the next report we will see much more time even for Animal Crossing. But even in the short amount of time, less than 4 months, I don't think I've ever seen an exclusive for one system do these kind of numbers. It is ridiculous. Let's go over here. We'll start with The Verge, where they did compile a lot of the information, and it does say that the operating profit is up 428% year on year, and this is due to 5.68 million systems actually selling and shipping in this first quarter of the fiscal year. That is super impressive. In fact, if we go over to Nintendo's own page, they do show that the Switch now is at 61.44 million units. And if you look at software, 406.67 million units. That means that the Switch now has already passed the total lifetime software sales of the 3DS. And it's not too far behind the lifetime sales of the 3DS already. I mean, really look at that. It's just about 14.5 million now. We could be talking about the Switch passing the 3DS probably, I would say, by early next year. It's going to come up pretty fast. And if you look at the Switch, say, compared to the NES, the family computer / NES that they have down there, that was at 61.91 million. So at this time, because of course we're talking about the cutoff by the end of June, so we're still talking about July and a little bit of August now, it's obviously past the NES. This is super impressive for Nintendo, and it's very clear that their hybrid concept really was the way to go. Now, I want to go over to the software because Nintendo does a very good job outlining their systems, but also their software. And there is a very high watermark now set, by the way, just to get on this list. So some games won't be on here, but I do still want to point them out, like Clubhouse games, for example, and Xenoblade. But let's start with the list here at the top. You can see Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, 26.74 million units. Yes, this appears to be the game that if you buy a Switch, you're probably buying Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, or maybe you're buying Animal Crossing because it is at 22.4 million units. That is in less than 4 months. I have never seen a game that is only released on one system do these kind of numbers. Not that I can remember. It's been a long time if it has. And I guess the only thing I can think of from like a third-party standpoint is Rockstar, because I think Red Dead Redemption 2 did similar numbers. This is crazy, though, for Animal Crossing to do that. That is off the charts insane. Smash Bros. Ultimate is basically at 20 million. They might as well just round it up. But again, Nintendo, going down to 19.99 million units. By the way, that would basically put them at 3 games already on the Switch over the 20 million mark. So I'm going to give it to Smash Bros. Ultimate there. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, 18.6. That will also be a 20 million unit seller. Pokemon Sword and Shield, 18.22 million. I believe that would put it higher than any 3DS release for Pokemon at that point. Super Mario Odyssey at 18.06 million. Then we have Pokemon Let's Go, 12 million. Super Mario Party is almost at 11 million, and that makes me really sad because they never did anything with that game, which is amazing, because below that, Splatoon 2, they did a ton with, so sure, Splatoon 2 at 10.71 million. And then to get on this list, you have to at least be able to beat New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe at 7.44 million units, and not a lot of first-party games across any system right now would even be able to get on this list. It is ridiculous how many Switch games are selling right now. Also, a few games that were not on this list here include Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. That is at 1.32 million, which that's pretty good. That came out right at the end of May, so it had about a month to sell. It's not bad. Clubhouse Games sold just over 1 million units, and then Ring Fit Adventure has sold 3.9 million units, coming up on 4. That is good overall for Nintendo and the Switch. It is cruising along right now, and I said it before, I'll say it again, this should be able to pass the Wii, which is great because it's not a concept, or it's not like the gimmick quote-unquote system like the Wii was, where a lot of people who don't really play video games bought the Wii and still have it hooked up, by the way. That's why Just Dance comes out for the Wii all the time, because people who just buy Just Dance will play it. It's also still in a lot of nursing homes, which is actually really cool because bowling is fun for anyone, right? I mean, come on, that's great. It gets you up and moving and all of that. So this would be great for Nintendo to get the Switch above that. And that also tells me the hybrid concept is here to stay. Like, the next Switch system will be a hybrid and so on. It just makes sense right now. So here's hoping Nintendo has some more stuff to announce coming up. It does appear that according to Nintendo, Bravely Default 2 is still on track for 2020, so we'll just need a release date pretty soon. But overall, yeah, the Switch still rolling along towards that 100 million mark. Next up, let's talk about a bit of an issue here for Microsoft when it comes to xCloud, because of course they're trying to get on iOS. There's over 1.5 billion iOS users right now. Naturally, for Microsoft's plan to get to 2 billion gamers, they kind of need to be on iOS. They need to be on your iPhone so they can serve Xbox games to you through Game Pass Ultimate and get your subscription. That's the plan, right? Be everywhere they can and try to eventually get there so that everything makes sense from this subscription model. There's an issue. Apple isn't too happy with the current business model when it comes to Game Pass, specifically games though, because they don't seem to have an issue with Hulu and Netflix and other portals that are set up to then serve you entertainment, even if it's somewhat interactive, right? It's an interesting situation, but they did make a statement, and this is what they had to say to Business Insider about this. The App Store was created to be a safe and trusted place for customers to discover and download apps, and a great business opportunity for all developers. Before they go on our store, all apps are reviewed against the same set of guidelines that are intended to protect customers and provide a fair and level playing field to developers. Our customers enjoy great apps and games from millions of developers, and gaming services can absolutely launch on the App Store as long as they follow the same set of guidelines applicable to all developers, including submitting games individually for review and appearing in charts and search. In addition to the App Store, developers can choose to reach all iPhone and iPad users over the web through Safari and other browsers on the App Store. Okay, so this is interesting because it sounds like Apple just wants Microsoft to submit every single Xbox game that is on Game Pass or every game that's offered through it to Apple. So they would be part of the certification process to get a game on Game Pass for iOS. I don't think Microsoft wants that. That seems a little out there to me. That would slow down the certification process quite a bit. You're bringing a whole nother company in that might want to make changes or other things. Let's be real. This is all about money, obviously, because if Microsoft's there with xCloud, Apple probably looks at that and say, well, we have Apple Arcade. We'd rather people subscribe to that, not xCloud, and we can't even control or profit from these microtransactions that Microsoft would have included in some of these first-party games. That's one of the reasons, of course, why it seems anyway, Microsoft and Samsung had to come up with their own little app for xCloud to allow that, because even the Play Store is kind of weird about that. But hey, give Google credit. They're still allowing xCloud, even though it is like a direct competitor to Stadia, to exist on the Play Store right now. But Microsoft went ahead and fired back with their own statement. Our testing period for the Project xCloud preview app for iOS has expired. Unfortunately, we do not have a path to bring our vision of cloud gaming with Xbox Game Pass Ultimate to gamers on iOS via the Apple App Store. Apple stands alone as the only general-purpose platform to deny consumers from cloud gaming and game subscription services like Xbox Game Pass, and it consistently treats gaming apps differently, applying more lenient rules to non-gaming apps even when they include interactive content. All games available in the Xbox Game Pass catalog are rated for content by independent industry ratings bodies such as the ESRB and regional equivalents. We are committed to finding a path to bring cloud gaming with Xbox Game Pass Ultimate to the iOS platform. We believe that the customer should be at the heart of the gaming experience, and gamers tell us they want to play, connect, and share anywhere, no matter where they are. We agree. Wow, that certainly puts Apple in the hot seat there for that, because Microsoft wants to do it. I mean, in fact, it sounds like iOS users want it as well. They would like xCloud because while you may not be on board with streaming, if you're already an Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscriber, it's just an extra feature. If you have an iOS device like the newest iPhone, you're probably like, well, how come my friend who has the Android phone can play these games, but I can't? It doesn't make sense for them, right? So Apple right now, they're the ones kind of stopping all of this from happening. And I will say their reasoning is a little iffy. When you say, I mean, they're saying, okay, you're going through this portal to get to these games and it's streaming, but you stream all this Netflix stuff that's basically a portal so that it is then streamed to you. Does Netflix go through all of, I guess, Apple for every single piece of content that's on there to be checked out and certified? I don't think they do. I mean, if I'm wrong, correct me down in the comments, but as Microsoft says here themselves, they do seem to be more lenient with multimedia, movies, TV shows, and all this, but now games all of a sudden is a problem. I believe there was an issue with Steam Link at one point with Apple, but it seemed that Valve figured that out with them, but this is going to be something to watch to see how Microsoft is able to get around this or come to some sort of agreement with Apple. I have a strong feeling a lot of it will have to do with microtransactions and getting basically a piece of the pie for the money coming in, because Apple, they don't really want to just let them on there for free. They want some of that money as well. Next up, let's talk about Sony's State of Play that took place yesterday. It was a little over 40 minutes, ran a little over the time that they said it would, but they did show a lot of PlayStation 4 games, as they said. Remember, they kind of lowered expectations ahead of time. They didn't want people to get too crazy with predictions and ideas of big PlayStation 5 reveals. Mostly PlayStation 4 games and some updates on PlayStation 5 games that we already seen, and a ton of gameplay actually. Now, Sony put out a list of the different games on their PlayStation blog that I will go over, and then I want to circle around for really one announcement I thought was really, really cool. So let's go through it here, starting with Godfall, which closed out. No clue why Godfall closed out. I think there was something else that should have, but that, of course, is apparently the game is going to be, I guess, launching later on this year with the PlayStation 5. Then we had Temtem, also coming to the PS5. That's in 2021. Hood Outlaws in Legends, that's coming to PS5. Then we have The Pedestrian, January 2021. Auto Chess, which was that was interesting. October 4th on the PlayStation. Control, and that's the DLC I want to come back to actually, because there's some really cool stuff there. Vader Immortal, a Star Wars VR series that's on PlayStation VR. Indulge in a look at the tasty Bugsnax gameplay. I had to read that all out completely because Bugsnax is like the new knack now, going to PlayStation 5. Then we had Anno Mutationum, that's going to PS4. Aeon Must Die, that's also on the PlayStation 4. Genshin Impact, or I guess you'd call it Genshin Breath of the Wild Impact, that's hitting PlayStation 4 this fall. And you know what? It actually looked pretty cool, so I will check that one out. Braid Anniversary Edition, that's for PlayStation 4, PS5. Forgot how old Braid is. It is 12 years old. Yes, so we should all feel pretty old if you remember playing that one. Hitman 3 will have PlayStation VR support. That's, of course, coming January 2021. Looked pretty cool to have that there. And then a longer look at Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, which included some new inverted mode, playable characters, and more. That was pretty cool to see that. But Control's AWE, or All Expansion, it looks really cool, okay? Because, as everyone saw it, they've been kind of teasing and hinting this. It's coming August 27th. Alan Wake was in there, and that is really cool. We also heard from Remedy, hey, what if you've seen us kind of hint and tease at other games? What if this was all one big universe that we've been crafting for pretty much the entire time now? That'd be really cool. I like seeing Alan Wake there, but that should have been the closeout. Like, okay, show Godfall for a bit, all right, and then like, oh yeah, one more thing, it's Control's DLC, and we're like, oh, okay, Control's DLC. And then Alan Wake at the end, and then we close it. That's kind of how you should have done it, I think, anyway. But State of Play was all right. I didn't have high expectations going in anyway. Call of Duty maybe could have been a big surprise there, but it sounds like Activision might be doing something with Warzone to unveil it. Otherwise, though, looking at this, they showed gameplay. They had updates on a lot of games, specifically PS4, some PS5, and for the most part, it was all right. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Xbox Live Gold, as there has been a lot of rumors going around right now about Microsoft possibly doing away with it or doing some massive changes, maybe make certain parts of it free or the whole thing. It's been all over the place right now with some ideas for Xbox Live Gold. So it seems that The Verge managed to ask Microsoft themselves and say, hey, what's going on with Xbox Live Gold? Are you guys getting rid of it? Are you rolling it in as like Xbox Game Pass Ultimate? You have to have that to be online because we saw your $60 a year option just disappear. What's going on here? Well, this is what the Microsoft spokesperson said. This language update is intended to distinguish that underlying service and the paid Xbox Live Gold subscription. There are no changes being made to the experience of the service or Xbox Live Gold. So this is, of course, from a Microsoft spokesperson who may or may not be allowed to even talk about what could be going on with Xbox Live Gold. It is a question that people have now, seeing Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, right, as like the obvious thing that most people are buying into now because the value is so high. And then you look at Xbox Live Gold, which is a part of that, by the way, and you look at like the games with gold stuff, and it's like, these games aren't very good right now. Like PlayStation Plus, significantly better right now when it comes to the games that you're getting each month. It's not even close. I mean, the big game on Microsoft, on the Xbox Games with Gold right now for this month is Red Faction 2. That's an original Xbox game. But of course, that also sets up the question of the free-to-play games being paywalled by Xbox Live Gold. Will that be changed? Because you figure they would want to, since they're making Halo Infinite free to play with a multiplayer aspect. It's weird that Sony and Nintendo don't do that, but Microsoft does do that. Maybe that is the only change they will make going forward. This spokesperson, to be honest, probably would not have given The Verge an answer either way. This was probably going to be their statement right now, and then Microsoft will do something with it at a later date in an announcement. It's happened countless times throughout the years with video games. Something will be denied, and then literally the next day or 2 days later, a change will happen, a big announcement will be made. So keep in mind, Xbox Live Gold can still be changed and altered. I don't necessarily know if it's gonna be completely free, but I think the free-to-play games will no longer be walled off, and you have to have Xbox Live Gold to play them. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Sub saying, dedicated xCloud phone. I hadn't thought of that. Great idea. I'll buy one and 3D print a case that can house it with some Joy-Cons or something and make my own Xbox handheld. Just don't buy an iPhone, apparently. I think if xCloud would actually take off to the point where people are legitimately just using their cell phones a lot, people might do this. I mean, think about it. If you get like a cheaper, semi-older phone, right? Because every year, new phones and people get rid of them and they sell them off used and cheap sometimes. If you get that and you create your own little handheld with the 3D casing like you're saying, or maybe somebody goes absolutely wild and builds out a whole handheld for it and just replaces the parts, that would be pretty cool to see that, right? If it was an xCloud device. But keep in mind, then it would be kind of useless without a mobile service, unless you're just like, oh, I'll just be tied to Wi-Fi. Unless you just say, hey, give me another SIM card, I'll get another plan, and I'll stream everything, and you have this really cool looking xCloud handheld. Someone I think will do that online at some point. I'm looking forward to it. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. Enjoyed this video, guys. Hit the like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today and what was a fairly longer Newswave. A lot of stuff happened yesterday. Whether it is about xCloud and Apple kind of going back and forth right now. Microsoft's plan is to be on iOS, and Apple isn't too excited to let them on there, it seems, right now. At least not jumping up and down, getting them over there. I wonder if they'll come up with something. Let me know what you think about that one there. And then also, what about Nintendo's financials? It's absolute insanity to see Animal Crossing in less than 4 months become the 38th best-selling video game of all time. And people are making lists and updating them on Wikipedia and stuff, and that's Animal Crossing's right in there above Borderlands 2 right now. Thanks guys for watching. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you back here Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time for Newswave.